Hello, welcome everyone to this night's broadcast of Exo Metaverse Lightnet. We have our special guest with us, Duane Ollinger. He is the star of the Discovery Channel Mystery on Blind Frog Ranch. And he's also really stepping up right now. He's hosting a major disclosure symposium on his ranch, which is 20 miles outside of Skinwalker Ranch. And it's going to be really exciting. Before we get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about Duane and why I'm such a big fan of his. So let's go here to the slides here. So one of the things, and you'll find out tonight about Duane, is he's incredibly sincere, and he's incredibly smart, and he's incredibly he's on a mission, basically. His curiosity has led him down the ultimate rabbit hole, the ultimate opportunity. And he was chosen of us all, you know, we all have these chosen paths, but he was chosen to really share from his heart some important information that's happened to him. And he's just such a great messenger, so to speak, because he's so funny and so lovable and so warm and so inviting. And he has become the owner of Blind Frog Ranch, which has healing properties and all sorts of other mysteries that have been unraveling before his eyes and everybody's eyes who've been watching the Discovery Channel Mystery at Blind Frog Ranch. So again, he's also hosting this UFO disclosure symposium, and he and his staff told me, Thanka, you know, we're really getting together all the PhDs, the scientists, the experiencers. We've got this new UAP footage that the world hasn't seen, and we want to broadcast it live to mainstream media. At the same time, we're showing it to the people at the conference in Utah, and we're going to have all, you know, the footage has already been analyzed 10 times to Kansas, but they're going to talk about it live with all these experts. There's going to be incredible people there. Professor Avi Loeb from Harvard's going to be there. Travis Taylor's going to be there. Our very own, James Keenan is going to be there. And Paul Hynek, our very own Paul Hynek, who's been with us from the beginning in our consortium. So this is a really great opportunity to go. If you can't make it to Vernal, Utah, you can watch it live, and we'll share the links in the chat there for you to check that out. If you do go, you can, it's really fun. They're gonna have a really fun experience for people. You get to tour the ranch and do all sorts of things. So you can just go to bit.ly/blindfrog to find out more. And if you're new to this, we're Lightnet. We call ourselves the Hogwarts for Humanity, where we allow people to have experiences that open their mind, whether it's spoon bending or interdimensional radio or seeing UFO. We're really focused about creating small groups for us to bring in the people that are sort of curious, that are on the fence, that haven't had an experience that's changed their worldview, to join us. And so we're kind of family. I want to give a shout out to Alan, who's live streaming this. If you are watching on Alan's channel and you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that. Same thing with Portal to Ascension. Thank you, Neil, for broadcasting. And also Carl the Crusher. Again, if you're watching in one of these channels, please hit subscribe to support their work in the world. Alan's going to come a little bit later. He's doing a remote viewing broadcast. He's going to talk about his new Contact series. But now let's get into the heart of the matter. You know, one of the things that we do in our group is we do hangouts. So I just wanted to let you guys know, if you're watching on the live stream right now, we would encourage you to go to lightnet.org/hangout so you can get inside the Zoom with us, because you're going to be able to ask questions and you're going to be able to get into small groups if you choose so later on the broadcast. So again, lightnet.org/hangouts will get you into the Zoom room. So Duane, welcome to this evening's interview. I've just been looking forward to this all week.
Well, thanks for having me. Thank you.
And one of the things that we do is we document people's contact experiences, because they're just so interesting. And yours is one of the most interesting I've ever heard. And I just wanted to kick it off with that, having you talk a little bit about how you got involved in all this.
Oh my. So to start, I guess I watched my parents die in hospice. And so in turn, I thought, my gosh, there's got to be more out there than this. And so in turn, we started looking for alternative medicines and things like that, thinking that maybe there's something that can add to this whole picture. Because, you know, if our parents die from something, you know, we're kind of in line with that, you know, and so, and our children are, and our grandchildren are. So why wouldn't we take the time? And we had a successful company, and we just took off on a journey. And the biggest deal is that I told, at that time I was married, and I told my wife at that time that we don't care about what the regular medical doctors are saying right now. We want to find out what's weird, different. And I want this on record right now that I didn't have a clue what I was talking about, because I just didn't have a clue. I mean, things just started coming from out of the woodwork, and one guy know another guy, and another lady had know another lady, and it just got massive. And so what was strange is that everything that they brought to the table, they would prove. And then, so you just can't, excuse me, you can't discount any of it. And so in turn, it just opened up a huge scenario of different opportunities. And we used a lot of that stuff in our company. People that, you know, we found out about RIFE frequencies and all different types of medical devices that, you know, were not very popular back then, but we had people that, you know, had hepatitis C from military. We had people that had cancers, lung problems, and they would use these devices and they would get better. Gosh almighty, I just can't count the scenarios. And so we started putting on these little conferences and just saying, hey, just come and listen to these guys. And we would bring those people in from all over, and they would prove the point. And it was such a blessing. And then how we got into this project up there was that we created a group called the Healing Center, and in that Healing Center, there was a bunch of people that knew about this project up there, and they brought it to my attention. They needed probably what you might call a little higher risk contractor, and that's what we do for a living, is work in the oil field and refineries. So it was kind of intriguing, thinking that, you know, if all these people here are telling us about this stuff and it's coming true, then why would I discount up there in the mountains? And so again, we went up there to start that project and help with it at the time. And as of right now, we own 66% of the project. So what I found out up there is that I didn't have a clue what I was dealing with. Not one clue. I mean, it just got wilder, and you think, well, it can't get any wilder than that, and it does. And so it was so intriguing and life-changing. You know, at one time we had over 100 employees in the refinery and oil field, plus or minus. And once you kind of saw what I saw up there, everything that I was doing didn't make sense anymore. It was just a mind-boggling deal to think, you know, what we're trying to move forward here on and what we used to believe in doesn't have anything to do with what we're seeing here. And so that's where it all kind of changed. And here we are. I don't know if I was answering your question or not. Sorry about that. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I guess what you're saying is that your mind had already opened up to the fact that things weren't making sense like 1 + 1 wasn't equaling 2, when you saw strange people being healed that were told they're not going to be able to heal. So there was this like crack in your, in your thinking that says, hey, wait a minute. And then you get called to do some drilling on some land, but then what exactly happened?
So there was really two sides to that project. One where we were using George Stevens, and that's where we found the cave systems. And out of the blue, look, we're from Texas. We're in the flatlands of Texas, and for the information to not be huge, a guy from Texas can't go up there on the side of a mountain in Utah nowhere and find a cave system without having high guidance of people. And George Stevens, he was ex-CIA. He used to do work for the Vietnam era, where you or I see 16 shades of gray, he sees 32, and there was 5 of those guys in the Vietnam era. So in turn, he found out by his training that he could also see colors on the trees, where if there was precious metals down below, it would change the canopy color of the tree. And so he was on the project on the west side, where we dropped into the cave systems, and that's where the blind frogs showed up. And one guy asked me, he said, my gosh, he said, how do you know they were blind? Well, I knew that he was going to jack with me a little bit. So I said, look, I held an eye chart up. They couldn't even read the top line. So I'm just saying that the frogs, they would be on the side of the bank, and you'd have to walk up and touch them on the nose before they jump. They just had no awareness of anything, because they've been in massive dark all their lives, but that meant that there is an ecological system down there that is going on. And that's where we found out later that we're into 9,600 feet of flooded caves. That's plus or minus. And where we really got into the wilder scenario is we ran into a guy named Don Nikoloff, evident footprint. And he was in communication with Jeremiah Davis. Now, I met Don Nikoloff up there in Utah in another situation, and I liked him, so I hired him for the east side. And he gave us target points on the east side to make a dig. And then he gave us 2 points to drill 2 holes. And in saying that, it took a while to dig out the ravine to get to where we needed to be. And then he gave us those 2 target points. Well, he was in communication with Jeremiah Davis, and we'll get into that however you want to get into that. But the target points where they told us to drill, they said, now, one target point, we need to go down 75 foot with a drilling core. So we call them rat hole rigs. So it's a 36-inch bit that you just drill down, and you bring out the sample and you twist it and turn it over there, and you throw it away right beside your machine. So at 75 foot on one hole, we didn't hit nothing. And but you don't give up on people because of everything that they proved to be true. So from 75 foot to 83 foot, they drilled down, and we drilled through this core, and then they pulled it up and slung it over. It was the bluest dirt you've ever seen. So, or I've ever seen, let's just put it that way, And so I thought, oh my gosh, how would these people know where this is whenever has to be millions of years ago? Something is just not right. How would they even know this? Because there's been no exploration out there, And so we moved down to the next one where we had to drill a hole at 68 foot. We were told we were going to hit something. And sure enough, we got to 68 foot, nothing. And we drilled through and went through from 68, let's just say to 75 foot. We pulled that core up, and it was blue dirt. It was just like an echo of a shield of some kind, because the dirt was the same on the top. You go through the blue, and then the dirt's the same on the bottom. So in turn, whatever took place there, we were being monitored by Jeremiah Davis. And so that night, it was like we gave an energy field air. We just don't know what really took place, but we were told that you just need to know that whenever we drilled through that platform of that blue dirt, that now that whole area, the whole mountainside is giving off a blue aura or a blue cloud. And it's also lightning strikes are coming out of the ground about 4 foot tall. And so that's where it got weird, because, you know, we got the call from Jeremiah Davis on what was going on. And so we're going out, you know, but we were told not to go out. They said, no, you just don't understand. You guys opened up a scenario here, and it's very dangerous. Well, that's no answer. What we do is dangerous. So I just told one guy, and then Don Nikoloff were going out, and you know, and as we were going out, we started having pickup problems, and it was like the pickup started ticking like a bomb, and so we were told to get out of the pickup, and you know, and it's a long story as we're getting to the project. It's about 30 miles out there, and something was jacking with our radio, and it was giving a groan talk through the radio and things like that. Yeah, I guess this is probably the first time I ever talked about this one, but it was, you know, and then we were talking on the phone with Jeremiah, and he was saying, you guys just don't understand. This is a very dangerous situation. So anyway, we parked the pickup on the side of the road, and we were down there about 100 yards down thinking, well, hell, this don't make sense. And so, you know, I just decided that I had him on the phone again. I told him, I said, no, we worked too hard. We need to know what's going on. And so I went, got back in the pickup. And again, I thought, you know, Lord, I might be coming a little early, but I need to know what's going on here, you know. And so pickup all fired back up, no more problems. And we drove out there to the ranch. And I don't know if you've ever been to the ranch, but we went up the hard way. Carl, you probably went the hard way if I was guessing. But in saying that, we went up the hard way and came off the top of the mountain, and we went down to a platform. And that's when we didn't get to see the blue aura or the lightning strikes, but that's when we got to see 9 spacecraft sitting there. They all came in 3, 3, and 3, and they were like plates, just shiny plates, like a plate on top of a plate, you know, backwards. I don't know a sphere, I guess. And so they would come in 3, 3, and 3, and they came in from the northeast. Which, when have you ever seen one cloud come in from the northeast and park? Well, these weren't clouds. They were metallic. They came in 3, and once they parked on the side of that mountain, they were still not touching anything. So they wouldn't park. They were just there. And once they would so-called park in midair, they didn't make no noise. They didn't do anything. They were just there, and then they would start blowing this fog around their craft, like just like a fog. And so they started looking like a cloud. And so there was 3, and then 3 more come up, and 3 more come up. So Nikoloff always said that there was 12. I always said there was 9, but you got to understand, when something like that happens, it's very overwhelming. So you're trying to concentrate on what 1's doing instead of 9. But they were all the same. There was 9 of them all the way across the side of the mountain. I wasn't close enough to check the oil in their craft, but I was dang sure pretty close. And so I'm just saying that they let us watch those craft until we got enough of seeing what was going to go on there that night. And then when we left, they left. And we were informed who they were the next day. And that was with the group Jeremiah was with.
Who were they? What did they tell you?
So, yeah, Jeremiah Davis, he was the story behind him. And I know this because I dealt with him from basically 08 till he passed away in 18, I guess, is that he was drafted out of the CIA to Area 51. And in Area 51, he was drafted there from that area. Let's see how to say that. He was drafted by the United Galactic Federation of Hendon. And there's, it's all documented on that whole deal, but he was a general for them, but he was not a general from here. And that's whose craft they were.
Wait a minute. What do you mean he was not a general from here? What do you mean, from the US or from Earth?
He was just like us, but they watched him for over 30 years and they drafted him into the Federation. And I know this is hard to imagine and believe. And if I wouldn't have seen all these craft, it would be hard for me to believe. But I seen 10 total craft, and they showed me so much other stuff and ran tests for us for projects. But it's real, and it's not easy for an old Texas guy to talk about this. It's this is not what I thought I'd be turning 65 and be telling them about. I'll guarantee you that much. So, but it's real, and I think it's very important that our kids and our grandkids know that there's more out there than what we're being told. Maybe they don't know. Maybe the government doesn't know, and religions don't know. But I think some of them do, and I just want my grandkids to be able to move forward with the truth of what we know it, instead of a kind of a cover up, and they get a job that just doesn't even make sense. Why not chase the dream of what we're getting to chase here also? And that's why it's coming forward, and it's kind of a bumpy ride, and it's not a pity party. It's just that it needs to be told, and that's what groups like all of us here are doing, and that's a very honorable thing to even get to have a conversation with y'all and everybody else, and even be a part of a documentary that's helping to tell that story from like Discovery and Cargo 7 to give us give me a platform to get to tell that story is just huge. It's humbling.
Yeah. So what did he tell you after that night? And, what did you learn from him about it? And was he at that time, so he was earlier working at Area 51, but was he still working with the CIA and the US government when he was having you guys drill this? Or do you think, or was he moved on? And what was he able to share with you at that point after you'd already seen, you disobeyed the orders, he said, don't come, and you're like, we're coming anyway. We just spent all this time, 200 people trying to drill this stuff out for you guys. We want to know. How interesting that your car wouldn't work and that the radios were going off. Mm-hmm. But then what happened afterwards? Like, what was he able to share, and who was he exactly?
So there was only about 4 guys out there on that project. The 100 people, that was in the refinery setting where we worked. But they monitored that deal for years, and they would give me updates all the time about what's going on in that area. And they would talk about craft that come in, because the Federation would watch that area because of what took place. So it brought an intrigue to other craft. And so I was always getting reports from Jeremiah and the Federation of other things that have taken place out there. And again, it's so crazy to even be talking about this, but yet we've proven the things about what's going on in the energy zones and the ley lines and all this whole deal. And there's also, we got reports that there's an object down there about 100 foot, 150 foot down in the ground. And so that sounds crazy, but then again, all the equipment goes crazy out there. And so Cargo 7, they have drones out there over the area that we were told, where it lit up with the blue aura. And, I told Cargo 7, at one time they said these drones, I can't imagine them paying that much for them, but they said some of these drones are like $20,000. Now, I don't know that. I'm just saying they're throwing a number out there. And I said, well, you need to pay attention and not launch from right here because, you'll have fits. So they said, look, we kind of know what we're doing and you do what you do and we'll do what we do. So they launched that drone and the next thing you know, their screen goes blank. And that drone drove right over there and ran in the side of the mountain, crashed it. And so they said, that's not even supposed to happen. We got another drone. Well, guess what? They launched another one and it crashed that one too. And finally, I think they would believe me a little bit. But, there for a little bit of the time, they thought that maybe what I was telling them was just a story, but no, it's a real project, and there's so much stuff going on out there. And I'm sorry, but I think I forgot your question.
Well, I'm so interested in this, in the electromagnetics of the area. It's near Skinwalker Ranch, and it's, James Keaton is also talking, it's in this very particular position, and obviously if lightning and blue earth is coming out at certain points and they knew where to dig for them, something is there. Mm-hmm. But I also want to know, so who was this guy that was knowing about this? And was he working for the US government, or was he just like, he was digging there and then, or was it, tell me more about him and what he was able to share with you and what he told you and things like that, because I think I remember you saying that he really secretly wanted you to tell the world about this, and that was part of what fueled you to speak out, right?
So yes, I put a name for it, and I call it favor for favor. And so later on, after I learned about, everything that's going on, and I got to see the crafts, I got to see one more after that. But, they did a huge favor for somebody in my family. And so on his deathbed, he basically wanted the favor to be returned, and it was to tell the world that there's more out there than what the government and or religions are telling us. And right or wrong is not anybody's fault, but there just is more out there, and we need to all know that. And I didn't have a clue where all this was going to go. I just knew that he was telling me the truth. I was there basically within a week or so of his death, and on his deathbed, I told him, I said, sir, I've never lied to you, and I dealt with him for over 10 years. And he says, nor I lied to you. And I said, I just want you to know I got the story out there. And he grinned, a sick man. He grinned, and he says, that you did. And so it was to help fulfill the favor of what he did for my family, which is very hard to talk about. So I don't know why we just move forward, and I hate it because on this man's deathbed, his family didn't believe what he did. And so in turn, my goodness. And so knowing what I know and the conversations I had with him for over 10 years, sometimes 2 a week, and they would last into the hours sometime. And he would make sure that I was aware of different situations. He would tell me so many things like, you just need to know that the highest technology, if our technology is 1,000 years in advance, Duane, you need to know that we still cannot get away from an electric motor. Even if we have free energy, we still have to turn it into horsepower. And it was all these things, just one after the other of how things work, how their crafts work, how they defy gravity. Outer shell has to be one gravitational pull, the inside has to be the other, or they'll travel so fast, and when they stop, you get slapped up like a bug. So they always talked about so many things. For years he talked about that you just need to know that there's no such thing as deep dark space. It doesn't get dark headed into a flashlight. And he talks about the only place it's dark is on the backside of any planet. You can get your mind around that one, but if you do the math and look at the sun as being 90 times bigger than the Earth, sideways, the diameter or the distance across, and you just draw it out with a simple pencil, it just like, wow, he said it's daylight everywhere, there's just so many things that we talked about. And he would always say, you need to know this, and it was crazy, but it helps to tell the story now. It's not an easy story, but I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story. I know sometimes it can be uncomfortable, and you're here with thousands of people that are watching live or not live, and they're here because they're also pathfinders. And it's really heartbreaking to me that his family couldn't hear this and couldn't, absorb this information. And even you who had the experience is still trying to make, sense of it, but you're speaking it out, and you were, that's so cool. I hope that you kept some notes and journals or something of what he told you, because now as you start to share more, the Discovery Channel is going to know that this is the next, the Discovery Channel series is about gold and other things, but it's leading people through to this other thing. They're getting to know you. And I'm excited that you're sharing this with the world. And I'm excited that you're also expanding the conversation in the UFO Symposium that you're holding. So this is kind of, the hard part is done because you've talked about your story, but now you get to feel the community coming in and all the other information that's going to be coming out from the shadows. So do you want to talk a little bit about the symposium that you're holding and how it came about and what's going to be going on? We also have Carl here too to talk about it.
I would rather Carl just step in there and help me out on that, because these guys are doing all the hard work. The information came to us and it's just huge. And take over, Carl. Let's go.
You bet. Well, yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I think what happened was I was up in Vernal actually doing some work up there and touring Blind Frog Ranch and everything. And while I was up there, I had a mutual friend kind of reach out to me, and he said, I have been given some footage, some military grade footage that I believe is of unidentified craft or objects or entities of some kind that they don't know what they are. And he was a little bit confused about what to do with it. And just the amount of coincidences that lined up. I had just, met Duane and a few other people around Duane and his team, and decided, well, instead of just like uploading this footage to YouTube where nobody's going to recognize it, it's not going to get seen by anybody, it'll just get immediately debunked. We need to get it analyzed and have it all looked at and reviewed by professional people. And then as that all went underway, the results that came back were pretty surprising, and the momentum built up behind this military grade UFO footage to the point that an entire symposium got built around it in order to bring it to the world as part of the disclosure movement and process, with everything else coming out from the military and the Pentagon already confirming similar types of pieces of footage. And I haven't seen all of the footage, but now there's an entire team, like everybody that you announced at the beginning, coming together that have reviewed and analyzed the footage, people that have experts in FLIR analysis like Dave Fouch. You've got Michael Boyd, Avi Loeb, James Keenan, Jim Segala, everybody that, pilot Chris Lito, he was a F-16 fighter pilot. And so he's done a lot of analysis on the previously released Tic Tac footage that happened off of the West Coast. And so all of this is coming to the forefront. Now there's this 4 new pieces of footage that haven't been released yet. And the truth is that a lot of the footage is like, it's over 20 minutes. There's a lot of footage that we have, and it's being analyzed and brought forward and then presented to the world, along with a lot of other interesting research projects and things revolving around with a group of great people that are coming together at the symposium. So on May 27th through the 29th is when it's going to be happening, at the end of this month. And all of the keynote speakers are going to be there presenting their findings and their research. For people that get the VIP passes, there's even a concert and a dinner. You get to meet and greet with everybody, including Duane and a lot of the cast from Blind Frog Ranch. And also a tour of Blind Frog Ranch if you're a VIP person, and a lot of other cool perks. And so we've decided to make a whole event to bring everybody together to release the footage and other stuff as well. So it's a really exciting event with a lot of things going on. It's going to be over 3 days, and it's revolving around this amazing area up there in the Uinta Basin with a whole list of strange activity, from everything Duane is talking about to the stuff going on in the research in the community and the people that are dealing with it in their day-to-day lives. And it's just a incredible opportunity for everybody to come together and watch this footage and then talk about it and try to move the ball further down the field towards disclosure and facing the truth with all of this.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks for all your hard work in organizing this, and it will be a really bonding experience. The waters, so you can go to bit.ly, bit.ly Blind Frog to get information about the symposium. And one of the cool things about Blind Frog Ranch is that the waters that have surfaced in this area have incredible healing powers. So people go there to become healed. So again, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the land, the electromagnetics. Of course, there's like Native American history and etchings and things like that. We're going to also ask Duane about his other sighting, and also just a little bit more about his path and things like that. We're going to go into breakout rooms very soon in a few minutes. So if you're watching live and you want to come in, ask Duane some questions at the end, or you want to hang out with other people that are in the movement, in the contact movement, in the disclosure movement, we invite you to go to lightnet.org/hangout. This will also get you into the other hangouts. It's free to do that. So you can just hop over there and get in the Zoom. So one more question we're going to ask before we go into the Zoom is, in Duane, if you don't want to talk about this, please just let me know. But you were talking about there being a favor for a favor, and the healing of your family members. Is that something you wanted to talk about or could talk about tonight, or?
Well, it was the technology that they used was a highly advanced technology for somebody in my family, and they shouldn't. It's a miracle that they're alive right now. The doctors still don't understand it. I would like to say that the Federation has taken. I was told that they have taken all this technical healing type scenarios that they know about. It's 1,000 years in advance of us, and so far they've taken it to a lot of different countries. And so far, or let's just say within the last 4 years, basically they didn't want to be a part of it for whatever reasons, So there is highly advanced medical things out there, and we all know that. But for some reason, our governments decide not to put that out there to the world for some reason. And but I know it works, and seeing the crafts and things like that. This is no game. This is real, and if they can defy gravity and have technology 1,000 years more advanced than us, why would I discount what happened to somebody in my family? But yet we don't use it now within our reaches of. I hate to get politics on that deal, but there's more out there than what we're being told.
Yeah, and I think a lot of this stuff that's going to surface just with time, and if it's not happening here in the US, it'll happen somewhere else. We're a big planet with a lot of countries and a lot of people talking and a lot of people experimenting. I have experienced some very high-tech devices, health devices in the last year, and they're just mind-blowing, like absolutely mind-blowing. And so I think it's just important, again, LightNet's whole mission is to create a living library of this stuff. So it's a little bit more organized, and then really just finding out how people are healing themselves. So we can do it with technology, but we can also do it with Reiki. Like, how is that even possible? It's possible for someone to put their hands on you and to heal you. I mean, so this is where the curiosity comes in, and this is where our collective wisdom comes in, and we need to understand these things a little bit better, because it's like gives us hope. It's so hopeful, and it's so fascinating and so important. So right now, I just want to give a shout out to my co-founder, Daniel Rekshan, who's here tonight. I also want to give a shout out to our members here, John West, Ralph Steiner, who's doing a great documentary on the ET Embassy, Gregor, Noelle, Pauline, Solange, a ton of you guys. Thanks for being here tonight. And I'm going to start the Zoom rooms. They're going to last for 20 minutes. Set a timekeeper in your group. If you'd like to join them, you can. And you can share a contact experience you've had or healing experience you've had, or you can just hold space and they can talk about the support they need in their life. So each person will have 5 minutes. Don't start talking right away, because I'll be moving around the contact groups. And once again, Duane, you're going to stay here with me in the main group. So we'll stay here and continue the interview, and others can watch it later. So here we go. So Duane, I wanted to ask you, what happened? One of the things we're doing in LightNet is working with radios. So what actually happened with your radio that night? And has it ever happened later?
Absolutely not. It was like the radio was basically even off. We had speakers on for talking on the phone, and it was like a a groan noise of a language that you could kind of make out a little bit of it, but yet it was just oh, I don't know how to explain it. It was just a groaning, dungy type of feeling as it was coming out of the radio. And then that's when things started in the vehicle. Still don't know where the ticking came from, but it sounded like it was a ticking bomb. And so Jeremiah Davis, which was on the phone with us, told us to get out of the vehicle. He says, you just don't know who you're dealing with. This is a dangerous situation. And basically, you know, on the phone after I got out and walked down the road, you know, looked like a bunch of idiots out there standing right in front of a vehicle, like what the heck is going on? But you know, he told us, he said, what you got to do is you got to get back to town. You got to get to where there's lights. You'll be safer there. And I said, no, we're going to go out and we're going to see what's going on. That's, you know, why work hard if you don't get to see the results, you know?
Yeah, like you said, you were a high risk contractor. So that's already in your blood to be so curious and to not be scared of danger. So do you think that they were trying to stop your car and then you convinced them that you were going and they said, okay, we'll just let him go?
Well, I don't think it was, you know, and that's a way of thinking about it. I never thought about it that way because from everything I could see, they were for us. So it had to be of another group that was not for us. And so in turn, whatever happened out there, it pretty well, if I understand it right, it pretty well brought the attention of governments and also upstairs people of other races, I guess you might say.
What did you get a feeling about the different races, and what did you get a feeling about why they showed up that night? And did you ever get a feeling about that, about what was going on?
No, the only thing that I got to see was the craft at that night. Now we've seen or video lightning strikes and plasma arcs on the ground and things like that since to prove the point of what Jeremiah was talking about the blue aura and the lightning strikes. So we have all that proved. The only thing I would know about different entities is what I was told by him. I've never experienced or seen anything like that. I was told what their uniforms look like. I was told, where the markings are, and I did see one of those guys. It's crazy, but I guess there was some more bad stuff going on, and so I got to see one of those guys. And I know this sounds so crazy, but at a shopping mall, they were keeping eyes on me. Their group's just big old stout, good looking people, and they wore a tight blue uniform with a jacket over it, and they had a star right there at the bottom of their waist. And he had always told me what they wore, their group. And so in turn, there was a whole bunch of people around, and I seen a guy that was kind of staring at a distance at me. And so in turn, for me to know that he was with the Federation, whenever I finally looked at him, he opened his jacket and there was that star on his belt line. And so he acknowledged, and I acknowledged him, but to this day, they would never tell me just how much trouble I was in. They just, for some reason, were there to take care of some business, I guess.
Yeah, wow, how fascinating. So we have Alan, who's going to come on in a second to talk about his UFO Making Contact series, which is going to be an incredible addition to his book. Alan, are you ready right now, or do you need a minute here? We've got him here. Let's see. Alan, I'm going to give you a minute. And why don't you talk? So you said, Duane, that you saw a second UFO. Was that the most like riveting emotional experience you had, was seeing the second time that you saw one, or was
they were all overwhelming to a point, but it just made sense, and so the next one I saw, for whatever reason, it's like you got to give them permission. So in turn, I kind of in a redneck way gave them permission that I wanted to see something else. And I think a lot of this is so I don't drop the ball on how I can even talk about it to this day, without being able to see the things that I've been showed. I would be under the table here if I had to talk about this stuff, but it's just, it happened one morning about 5 o'clock in the morning. Here we go. So about 5 o'clock in the morning, I woke up with an overwhelming thought that I need to go outside. I need to go get some binoculars and go outside and look up. And so this is crazy. Who wakes up with a thought like that? This is pure silly. But I did. But I didn't follow the orders that I was supposed to, because I just got up and walked outside in the back, and I lived on a couple acres out in the country, and then it was pretty wide open up there. So whenever I walked out and looked up, there was a craft right above my house, and it was huge. To say how big it was, I don't guess I'll ever know, because how high was it up or how low was it up would give you a difference in how big something is. But they just let me look at it. They would turn the lights on and let them just circle around the craft, and kind of like they were showing off, you might say, I guess. And there was a big glow or bulb on the bottom, just a huge. I would think it'd have to be something like how they could observe something that's underneath them, So that thing was huge. And so they would turn the lights on, they would spin them around, and they'd make different lights go different directions. And so I was very excited about that whole deal, and I wasn't worried about it, but it didn't make any noise. This thing is huge, but yet it's defying gravity. And so they just let me look at it as long as I wanted. And so I was married at the time, and I was excited about that. So I thought, well, somebody else has to see this. And so not everybody wants to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go out and look up and look at the spacecraft, because it was just overwhelming. And so finally I got my wife up at that time, and we walked out there, and they backed it up, shut all the lights off, where all you could see was just a globe on the bottom. So, I thought, come on, I need somebody to witness this besides me. But that wasn't the point. Their point was that their group always thought I was telepathic, and they wanted to prove it to their higher ups that I was, and that was the reason they did that. And they would never let me talk about it. I would bring it up to Jeremiah. I said, come on, I just don't know if that happened. And he would shut me off. He said, it did, Duane. It did. Don't talk about it. And so, that's, there's certain things they didn't want me to talk about. And they got to have permission. He always told me they have to have permission to even let somebody see those things, unless it's accidental. So I don't know. You tell me. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, so that's really great that you have, you know, opened yourself up to telepathy, because that's one of the ways that we know from our surveys and collective intelligence that that's the way they communicate, and that's really critical. I wanted to ask you one of the stories I heard you speak at a conference, and I was just like so blown away by your story about your SAT tests in high school. And I don't know if you would say that's telepathy, maybe you would, but why don't you tell them about that? Because it talks about what all of our inborn capabilities are when it comes to knowing. It's just that not everybody listens. So
again, another crazy story. So that's what I had to live with after I understood that. It came. Look, I was a C student, and I always thought C meant correct, but it doesn't. You know, I was the low guy on the totem pole, and so in turn, the teachers they would always ride me and say I wasn't paying attention, and you know the whole deal, and it's just part of it. But it came to the point where the SAT test, everybody has to take it, you know, and so I was going to go take it, but I knew that by the teachers and what they told me that I'd never go to college, I'd never do any of this. And so in turn, when it came down to the colleges, I just put the highest level colleges there were out there, because I was just, oh, what the heck, you know, we'll just say I want to go to this college. And so when I went to take the ACT test, I guess you might say that it's the first time that I could put my mind in a neutral, because I knew that it didn't matter. I was going to graduate. I was going to go do something else. And so in turn, once you find out you can put your mind at a neutral, that's when things start coming to you. So on the ACT test, I never read a question. I never read the answer, but I was told the answer, and I would just mark them until I got to a certain point, and then I was told that's enough. And nothing made sense about this whole deal. And about 2 weeks later, the ACT test, I think the ACT test came in, and the scores came back. And the next thing you know, I was called to the office, and all my teachers were in the office, and they were mad. They were so mad, it's unreal. And they had me sit in a chair, and each and every one of them started chewing me out, saying, you have physically made us look like a fool because of what you pulled off on the ACT test versus what your grades used to be. And so I had one teacher, she was crying. She was so upset. And I didn't understand that. But what happened was that because I put all these high-level colleges down, that I was accepted before our smart guys. And so that's why they were so upset, was that they said, you moved them down a notch. And I thought, oh, well, you know, but I'm just saying that's what took place, and it's all on record. But that's where I found out, by being able to go to a neutral, that's when everything's really just come to you. And I don't know how to explain that, but then the Federation verified it later on. So.
wow, what do you mean the Federation verified it later on? So that's so fascinating, because sometimes these first experiences that you have inform the other ones, just like you intending and asking, you know, like, hey, I want to see the craft. And then you putting your mind in neutral and this coming through. What do you mean about the permission? And then how did you develop it from there?
So that was an eye-opening deal. And throughout my life, you've always had these people show up and say, you just need to know this and you need to know this and where they just come from. Why do they show up and just what comes through their mouth that wouldn't have normally came through their mouth, you know? And so I don't know where to go with any of this, but the Federation was the one that said, we always thought you were telepathic. And so in turn, that's why they put the shit behind my house and bombarded me with thoughts. And which wasn't a scary deal. I mean, hell, I looked at it just like it was a new Chevy. I mean, I thought, well, this is nice, you know. And then all the things that we talked about ever after, or always after that, just made sense, you know. They just talked about so much stuff that you just need to know this, Duane. You need to know this, and there would be a time or two they just keep, or he would kind of repeat himself, and I say, "Look, I get it. You don't have to tell me twice, you know, type stuff." But it's, I don't know. So many interesting things about how their craft travels and how they it's like they can send out a void in front of their craft, and then they chase an empty space, and so to slow their craft down they can pull that space back, and but they have to have an outer gravity protection and an inner gravity protection, and they talked about all that stuff. They talk about their weaponry and how it's 1,000, 10,000 years in advance of what anything we have. I will say this, and I'll probably get in trouble over this one, but from what I've seen in the technology and the crafts that I've seen and the whole 9 yards, I hope this is right. I'd be surprised if there's one nuclear weapon that could go off. That's just way above and beyond all that stuff. You know, they got too many components, and you can look up on the Dome of the Rock on YouTube, and that was one of Jeremiah Davis's craft that came down on top of the Dome of the Rock and fired a beam down and then shot up. That was the Federation that did that, and I know all that.
Wow, that's fascinating. Yeah, I mean, when people talk about the aliens being dangerous and stuff, I'm always like, oh my gosh, you know, they can stop us from, you know, blowing ourselves up. And they are more advanced, but it's not just that they're more advanced technologically, they're more advanced, they're mature. You know what I mean? It's like there's kids that are playing and hurting each other, and then the parents are saying, oh, let's all get along. Well, that's kind of like what's happening. They've been there, done that. And so at least that's my opinion. What are the things that they told you that you felt were the most important things? You know, they kept saying, you need to know this, you need to know this, you need to know this. What were the things that you want to tell us that really stuck with you and feel that's important for the world to know right now?
Oh my, you know, when you talk to somebody for over 10 years, there's just so much stuff. I think one of the most important things that he would overemphasize the fact is that all the governments aren't bad. There's good and bad in every culture. There's good and bad in every agency, and sometimes who seems to be bad are doing what they're told, that think they're doing it for the honor and glory of the flag. And so it's all compartmentalized so much. You know, I've seen Jeremiah just on the phone. I heard him on the phone, just downright just want to cry, because, you know, what he had found out that they did back a long time ago, thought that they were doing it for the right cause. Come to find out later on that he found out that it was the wrong cause, and it just break his heart. But, you know, there's so many people out there that are doing it for the right reason, but maybe the higher ups are not telling them everything that they need to know. You know, you know, how do you say what's more important whenever you spent, you know, 10 years talking to a person about the ups and downs in their life? I would have to say that the big heartbreak would be, and I think we all are heading down that path unless we can change it, is that you know, on your deathbed, you know, for those type of people that have helped save the world, but yet on their deathbed it's lonely, because, you know, they signed paperwork or something that they can't talk about. I don't know. I mean, you know, I just don't know. What's more important is is it more important that we know that with the advancement of 1,000 years in advance that they can't get away from an electric motor, or is it about that, my gosh, let the people that know help us understand more, that we can tell our grandchildren, look, don't go down that path, go down another path, and you will help society even greater. So I don't know. I danced around that question, I guess. Sorry.
No, that was great. And it gets down to this question that it's like, I am not going to rest until we all have the full information. Because like you're saying, when things get really compartmentalized and you're making decisions based on 80% of the information, we cannot do that. We cannot do that going forward. We can't have doctors that are saying, I can't do anything to save your life, when they have part of the information. And we can't do that with disclosure either. We have to come together. We have to bank this knowledge. And we need to do it in an open source way, in an open data commons way. And, you know, when I talked to James Keenan, who's going to be at your UFO symposium, you know, he was learning stuff that the 3-letter agencies had entire year-long symposiums about. And he's out there in the field with stuff he can buy on Amazon or whatever. So that's the empowerment that's happening right now in our community, is that we can do this research ourselves. We can talk about it. We can share information. We can create these bonds and connections with these federations and with each other and ourselves. And so I really think the work that you and Carl and everybody at Blind Frog Ranch is doing is amazing. And I also, I have Alan Steinfeld here, who's going to talk about a little bit about his Making Contact program that he's putting on. That's going to be an extension of his book. And again, it's like, let's bring together the brightest minds. Let's start these conversations. And let's begin to, sorry, Alan, I'm looking for you on the screen. There we go. And then let's actually have contact experiences. You know, the LightNet software is not done yet. And Alan's like, well, let's just do it anyway. And I was like, you're right. Let's just do it anyway. So we're going to be starting these small groups and bringing people through contact experiences, whether it's through meditations or dreams or CE5s. And I'm just so grateful for Alan for what he just led a remote viewing course. You know, this is a hands-on course. This is what it's going to take, because you can't necessarily believe someone's story or read it, you know what I mean, or watch a movie. We've got to start having these experiences, and we've got to start talking about them. So if you go to bit.ly/Making Contact 2022, you can find out more about Alan's program, The New Realities of Disclosure and Cosmic Awakening. And I'll let him talk about it, but it's starting next Thursday. So it's really starting now. Welcome, Alan. Thanks so much for everything you do.
Hey. Thanks, Zinka. Thanks for doing this program. Even though I was busy, I would have loved to hear what Duane has to say, because this is a time we come together as a planetary civilization. I think we can't depend on government. We have to take reality back into our own hands because it's been co-opted by people trying to manipulate what we should think and what we should say. And so I've developed this series, but it has to do with everything you guys been talking about. So I'll show you a poster for this upcoming series, which is a deep dive into disclosure. And this is starts May 19th, but we go June 2nd, where actually I have Danny Sheehan coming on and Steve Bassett talking about what's going to be happening, what would have happened on Tuesday, on June 2nd, the House hearings, the first in 50 years. Did you talk about that? That's going to be happening on May 17th. And we're going to have a watch party, me and Zinka, on this channel about the House hearings on May 17th. But anyway, this is a whole series I'm putting together. Linda Moulton Howe, I think, is one of the best researchers in the field. Whitley Strieber, who's probably been abducted more times than anyone. Nick Pope. So this is a deep dive conversation into the inner workings of this phenomenon, trying to come up with maybe not answers, but put some of the pieces together. Everything Duane is doing, everything everyone here is interested in. We need to lay it all out on the table for the American public and the world to see and start to make connections and see where we are and to understand that reality, which is Blind Frog's Ranch thing, is not what we thought it was. It's not. There's so much more to existence, and we have to start exploring who we are as human beings, and then we can really make a difference. So if you want some more information about that, go to makingcontactseries.com and then join us on this conversation, because the only way things are going to change is if we make it change ourselves. If we come up and say, yes, this happened to me. This was my experience. This is what I think. Yeah, I saw that. And come out of the closet and just say, this is the true nature of existence. Everything else was just been surface level. And so we have a chance now to change the reality into what it really is. And maybe that will create abundance, peace, happiness, and prosperity. What do you think, Duane?
I agree 100%. We all just have to, just come forth with our truth. And even if it's bumpy, that's the only way we get to where we need to go.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, what you've discovered there on the ranch is something that most people will deny its existence. How do you think we should get this message out to the world that there's more to reality than we've been told?
I don't know. All I know is that I dealt with Jeremiah Davis, and they opened up a whole new world for me, not just in Utah, but in different areas of the country. That is just mind-boggling, and what a blessing to be a part of this time. I talked to Chad, my son, yesterday, and I said, you just can't beat this time in our life, because there's stuff coming down the pike, and it's they can't deny it, and I don't know. It's a blessing.
So is Avi Loeb going to be at the ranch and some of those other people? Are they showing up or on Zoom?
Carl, do you know on that deal?
Yeah, I think almost all of the keynote speakers are going to be there and present at the symposium and attending. I think Avi Loeb is going to be broadcasting simply because he's overseas, and so it's a little bit expensive for him to make the trip himself. But everybody else is going to be there and collaborating together and looking at the footage and talking about each other's research projects and how we can all work together on what we're discovering and all these different aspects and approaches to the phenomenon.
So what do you think the next step would be, Carl, after we all come together there at the ranch and after we hear the hearings that may be going? Where do we go as a community? What do you suggest?
Well, I think it's a really good opportunity for everybody to network and become familiar with each other in a new way and approach this from a higher level and a new perspective. So I think it's respecting each other's work from different approaches, because we have some people who are, looking at the perspective of the geology and the phenomenon of how it affects us from an Earth perspective, and other people that are looking at astronomy and into deep space, and from other people that are looking into human consciousness and the soul's connection with the phenomenon. And so everybody's coming together. And so I think it's a matter of finding what resonates with you when you participate in the symposium, and what relates to your own personal experiences, and then networking and joining and participating with the research projects and professionals in those similar fields that are attractive to you, that you feel like are something that you can contribute in, and then join in that work. Like Chris Lito, he's launching sensors into space along with other scientists that are participating in the event, and launching sensors into space and putting them up in the ranch and other places around the basin. And so there's ways to participate, to crowdsource and fund different projects. And so the symposium is a good opportunity to sample what everybody's doing, and then jump in and participate and join in, because we live in a world where you can do that and get involved now.
That's great. No, maybe you can make, someone can make a guest appearance on the series that I'm doing with Linda and Whitley, and just kind of whatever comes out of the symposium, you could announce it in the series, and get a bigger network of people coming together. So thank you.
Absolutely. I'd be happy to do that, and come back for the results of the reviews and the symposium and kind of all of that. And we can chew on it and see what comes of it, and collaborate across all the different aspects and teams working on this. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe on the June 2nd show, because that show will have Danny Sheehan and Steve Bassett on talking about the latest disclosure news. So it might be good to come on that time. So I'll get your information from Zinka, and we'll just go from there.
Let's do it. I'd love to.
All right. Thanks. Zinka, anything else?
Yeah, so we just have 15 more minutes, and I wanted to open it up to questions. If you have a question, but you're not in the Zoom room, you can come in the Zoom room by looking at this lightnet.org/hangout. But I wanted to see if there's any questions here from the people that are in the Zoom room. You can raise your hand by using the reactions tab at the bottom and raising your hand. You can also just type it into the chat. But this has been so great, Duane, to hear that you've cultivated this relationship with someone so special over the years, and that he basically entrusted you to tell what he could not tell. And this is kind of the baton pass that's happening right now, is that it's up to us as people to come and share this information. And like, as Carl is saying, let's all get excited about this and start doing the research. Like, oh, someone's doing some satellite thing. Okay, well, if you don't have time, give them money. If you don't have money, give them time. Like, let's get in here and let's do this stuff. Alan just did a remote viewing workshop at Dream Magic with Adrian of Awaken World and Rachel of Dream Magic. And it's so cool. So in my house, I set up 3 different targets that they remote viewed. And then they also are going to remote view what I'm going to place in there tomorrow. I don't even know what I'm going to place in my bookshelf tomorrow. But so how interesting.
We just did that, Zinka. We just did that experiment with everyone in the room here.
We all have our answers.
We all know what you're going to place on the shelf tomorrow. So this spoon bending, these are the superpowers that have been hidden from us because we are non-local consciousness. So, yes.
That's so exciting, you guys. That's so exciting. Well, there's no one's consciousness that's stronger than Rachel's. She's amazing. And she co-hosts our spoon bending parties, which we're doing. And we're getting all these crazy results, right? We're bending the buckles. We've got people bending without touching them. We're sprouting seeds in our hands. This is what this is all. This is citizen science. This is our consciousness. This is us connecting with each other. This is connecting with ourselves and each other and sharing the information. not beside, behind a Masonic temple, like out in the open. So we invite everyone to join LightNet. We're going to be raising our membership in very soon, maybe even next week. So it's $44 for the whole year, and you get a spoon bending every month. And Rachel hosts them in Sedona, and you can come for $25, and kids come free. So it's really exciting times. Rachel, do you want to share anything? Look at that.
Let's see here. Now I can get this on the screen.
Yeah. there you go.
Forks, spoons. Yeah, so this is the studio, Dream Magic, right over here. If you want to show them a little.
This is it.
It's my art studio, but also a place to have events like tonight. We had remote viewing. Zinka and I teach spoon bending once a month. I do magic wand making, painting classes. I think art and creativity is one of the best ways to tap into our unconscious.
And this is how we change the world, by the creative imagination, by doing these things that people thought they couldn't do. And, Rachel has her book.
Yeah, and I didn't think that I was a painter until I made an art studio in Sedona, started painting, and then I ended up painting spirit animals because they called to me. And after 3 years of painting, I was able to make a book, Spirit Animal Wisdom. It's got 300 pages of animal message communication plus oracle decks. So when I really got out of the way and listened to my calling, I was able to do things I didn't think I could do.
Right. Actually, speaking of books, I've just written Making Contact, and I want to give a gift. Everyone here, if you send me your email, I won't send you the whole book, but I'll send you the introduction to Making Contact. I'll put it in the chat, but it's newrealities@earthlink.net, and I'll send you the intro, which is an overview of the UFO phenomena. And I have experts. I mean, this is not my book. It's contributions by Linda Moulton Howe and Grant Cameron and Whitley Strieber. So I've looked at some of the best people I felt in the field and put them all together in this collection. So I'll just put, if you want a little piece, a little segment, I think Karen already has it, but a little segment, just email me, and I'm happy to send that out in support of all of Zinka's work. And, this is a collective movement. We are in this together. My favorite quote by Martin Luther King is, "We may have all come on a different ship, but now we're all in the same boat." So it's like, here we are in the same boat, trying to figure out the future, because nobody knows where this thing is heading, but it's up to us to carve the path in the density of time and space to create the world we want to be in. So let's start making contact with ourselves, with the earth, with each other, and whatever's out there, because I think, there may be some negative forces, but I think if we have a positive attitude, the world responds positively to us, Bashar says, if you're looking in the mirror and the guy in the mirror is not smiling, you don't go up to the mirror and try to make the guy smile. It comes inward, and then, you change the world. So that's my little piece. So thank you, Zinka, for hosting this with some of my friends.
Thank you so much, Alan. Yeah, this is, what Rachel shared is a really empowering message. And what Carl does is also very empowering. So he's going out there, he's interviewing all these people, he's looking at the ruins, he's looking at the drawings on the wall, and he's following his curiosity. And that's exactly what Duane did. And that's exactly what led him into this incredible life that he's doing. And, you're really knocking it out of the ballpark, Duane and Alan, for this movement. So we really appreciate it. We have a question here. Mark, you're unmuted, so go ahead and ask your question for Duane or whoever it's for.
Yeah, thank you, Duane, for being here and with your project that you're going to be putting on. And I was wondering, do you have is there going to be any technology revelations? I know you're going to have the video or the footage of the UAPs and all that new stuff, but as far as any new technology, is there anyone that's going to be presenting like an anti-gravity technique or a methodology or a machine? Is there anything new in that field or that you know of that you could share with us?
Is that my question?
Yeah, so he's asking you, maybe you know some things that you were told about how the ships work in terms of anti-gravity. And then he's also asking, and maybe Carl can answer, if there's people specifically at the UFO Disclosure Symposium that will be talking about the technology of a spacecraft.
So just a little bit that I know about as far as how their crafts work and things like that. The neatest thing that I was told on that whole scenario is they send out a void or a vacuum, and then they chase that vacuum, plus or minus 5 miles out is what Jeremiah always told me. And for them to stop their craft, they pull that void / vacuum back. And then it has anti-gravity on the outside shell and the inside shell to make sure that their people don't get harmed. They always put a little bit of G-force on the inside, because if not, it seems like a video game, and they like to feel a little bit of it like they're flying instead of just like they're sitting in a chair. And it can be Jeremiah always told me they want to put a little bit of a pull on them, so it doesn't seem like a video game while they're going through space and taking off and stopping within a tenth of a second. So that's all I would know on that. They showed me the inside of ships as far as their boards and everything like that. But again, that's hard to prove. But yet, if I wouldn't have seen the ships, and on his deathbed, he said, I never lied to you, Duane. So in turn, we have pictures of other planets, and their what their buildings look like, and what the trees look like, and lots of stuff. So I don't know, Carl, help me out on this one.
I also wanted to ask you your theory on why and how they punch into our reality. So why do they do it? When do they do it? Do they need the electromagnetic fields in your ranch, or is it just like they wanted to show up? How and why do they punch in to the reality?
So basically, we would get reports, or I'd get reports on that, different craft would come in, and some had the capability of just going down into the area and either sending out a vibration or a frequency or something, and then they could make that aura, that blue aura, come up out of the ground, and then they would drop down into it like it was maybe a filling station of some kind.
Interesting. So do you think that they need energy for the craft that they're pulling from the ground?
I think that there's so many different types of craft. If I understood Jeremiah and their craft, they pretty well had a development of free energy anyway. So in turn, Nikoloff and Jeremiah Davis would always argue about that the outer skins of all their craft were like little bitty pyramids, just to gather and store energy. So Jeremiah would never admit to that, but he never denied it.
Carl, we just have 2 more minutes here. Did you have anything you wanted to share on this in terms of anything?
Yeah, I think what will be really fascinating for people as far as the symposium is concerned and the technology advancements, I would pay attention to the scientific efforts of Jim Segala and Michelle Miners and what they're going to be presenting and what they have there. They have developed actual scientific sensors and devices that they've been placing with members of the community around the Uinta Basin and even around in California and different places where there is a high rate of the phenomenon occurring, whether it be sightings in the sky or even activity in people's homes. out of body experiences that they recount at night, or anything in between. If they're reporting incidences and they sign up for this type of program, then Jim and Michelle can place these sensors in their home and even wearable devices, so that when they report a different type of activity occurring, or an abduction experience or anything, they can wake up the next morning, or they can go in from their backyard, report it on the website, and Jim and Michelle can actually go look at the sensor data and compare that. And what's amazing is they're starting to collect some pretty incredible results from that data, showing flight paths overhead where the phenomenon might occur to someone sleeping at night here, and another person sees it in their backyard, and then over there they have a strange occurrence, and they can track a path, and the data actually shows spikes and anomalies and things like the Earth's electromagnetic field or the gamma rays, things that are significant differences either up in the sky or in the Earth, and even on the person's biology. And they are tracking all of that, sensing all of that. And you can even go into the outpost in Vernal, Utah, the Blind Frog Ranch outpost. And there's even a live display where you can watch some of the sensors running, where the volunteers have offered up that information. So I would really pay attention to that, because it's a way to take the encounters and the experiences and the sightings and match it up with chronological data and scientific results based on the sensors that are being built and put out. And so that would be something that I would pay attention to as far as understanding the phenomenon, how it works and how it relates to our reality and us as humans.
Hey,
So I think that's going to be really fascinating.
Carl, have you seen Carolyn Corey's new movie, A Tear in the Sky, where they have some tracking device? Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's very similar. In fact, I think a lot of their equipment might actually be a little bit derivative of a lot of Jim Segala's engineering and development with his sensors. It's really interesting. So if you want that like cutting edge development of where that's going and how you can take part in that, that's going to be a big part of the symposium that Jim and Michelle are going to be presenting as far as the technology.
Great. Thanks. I'll be in touch, Carl. Thank you so much. Thank you, Duane.
So for the final little question here before we close, because I know it's late for Duane and Carl, and thank you for being with us. Is there any information about Jeremiah Davis and the Galactic Federation of Hermits? And also, we've got a member that wants to know how to get these specific devices to support the research. So the first question is there anything on the internet, Duane, about Mr. Davis, Jeremiah Davis?
Yes, there is. In one of his speeches with Don Nikoloff a long time ago, they speak about, if you look up on YouTube, General Jeremiah Davis and the United Galactic Federation of Hendon, you'll see one of two of his speeches with Don Nikoloff. You'll listen to it. You'll also see a document on there where his mission statement on his deathbed and who was there and who signed off on it. And I was one that signed. So it's heartbreaking on some of that stuff, but for us to get on the same page with them, we got to stop being a warring world. And they're supposed to be watching to see if we get involved with how they operate. And there are over 574 different planets that go under their wing, and that does not mean that there's not thousands or tens of thousands of other galactic federations. That's just one of them. They always talk about the volume of, they'd always say, Duane, you need to know that there's billions of planets and trillions of stars in our galaxy, and there's billions, if not trillions, of other galaxies. They did say, or he did say, that once we get out of our galaxy, it gets a little more Western. And they don't like to get out of our galaxy because it's a little bit wilder out there on other realms.
is there like a field that surrounds our galaxy that makes it kind of cohesive for all the beings in the galaxy?
Sir, I don't know. I just know what he kind of talked about. He did talk about there are evil groups too, and it's a battle, always good versus evil. So he talked about groups that they overtook, and the people that were of those groups are good people. They just thought they were doing it for the right reason, which in turn, in our eyes, was the wrong reason, is what he would say. So I don't know.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Carl has posted in the chat, but if you want to learn more about these devices, you can go to mupas.org. That's MUPAS.org. And again, the Making Contact series, you can get to bit.ly/Making Contact 2022. This is the New Realities thing. Thank you to Carl, Portal to Ascension, Alan, and the UFO Disclosure Symposium you can get to bit.ly/blindfrog, right? All these people are going to come, and this is happening soon. This is happening in 2 weekends. Alan's is happening next week. So we also invite you to the Spoon Meeting, which will be the first Sunday of the month. You can watch it live. You can participate. You can invite as many people as you want to your house to watch the live stream. And next, in 2 weeks, we're going to be interviewing Joycelyn Buckner for our members only session. She grew up 8 years old, playing in Joshua Tree, learning all about the Integratron time machine. She has tons of information that I've never heard and seen and read, and I've read a lot about that. So she's going to really give us the inside scoop. She's going to talk about giant rocks. She's going to talk about the Native Americans as well, and how the rock was split using prayer and meditation, which is crazy when you see a picture of giant rock. She's also going to teach us how to see a UFO. So if you're interested in time travel and the work of these scientists, we invite you out. And we'll see you next Thursday is Alan's start of his big series. The first session is free. So that's your chance to get on.
Nick Pope, JJ Hertog are going to talk about the latest disclosures and how that interfaces with human consciousness. So JJ, Desiree Hertog, it's going to be a breakthrough session. Okay.
Thank you so much, you guys. Have a wonderful night. Thanks for speaking your truth and spreading the word about this and having experiences in your life. So we'll see you in Utah and online.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Duane and Carl.
Thanks, everyone.